Bom dia, moçada, tudo bem? Sejam bem-vindos aqui à nossa quinta aula da disciplina de Fundamentos de Administração. Lembrando que nessa disciplina é uma disciplina que tem duas partes, Fundamentos de Administração 1 e 2, ok? E hoje a gente vai dar continuidade à nossa quinta aula. Vamos lá, vamos soltar a vinheta. Legal, galerinha. Bom, na nossa última aula, a gente viu, na verdade, que toda essa evolução da gestão, desde a Revolução Industrial, tá certo? Aí passamos pelo Frederick Taylor com a administração científica, passamos pela teoria clássica do Fayol, aí tivemos a Primeira Guerra Mundial como cenário de fundo do mundo. Aí tivemos, em 32, a experiência de Hawthorne com Elton Mayo, tá certo? Depois vem a Segunda Guerra Mundial. E depois, com o fim da Segunda Guerra Mundial, a gente tem um hiato interessante, que é a recuperação econômica, né? E onde as empresas utilizaram-se muito, né, da teoria burocrática do Max Weber, ok? Em 51 aparece a teoria de sistemas, com o Ludwig, né, tá certo? Então essa data é importante porque ela tem um marco na linha histórica, que é, a partir desse momento, os gestores não olham mais apenas para o seu umbigo, ou seja, não olham só para a produção, buscando só produtividade. A partir desse momento, tem um olhar para fora, porque começam a aparecer stakeholders necessários fora da gestão, do ambiente interno, ou seja, no ambiente externo eu tenho lá governo, eu tenho fornecedores, eu tenho clientes, eu tenho concorrentes, enfim, eu preciso gerenciar isso tudo, né? Então é um olhar, a partir desse momento que a gestão muda do olhar centrado para um olhar mais amplo, tá certo? Olhando para dentro e para fora da organização. Em 54, Peter Drucker retoma a teoria do Fayol e dá uma roupagem nova, por isso que é chamada a teoria neoclássica, que é aquela que foca na questão de objetivos, de eficácia, enfim, né, que a gente já viu. Em 57 a gente tem a teoria comportamental, onde vários psicólogos retomam os estudos do Elton Mayo lá de 32 e dão uma amplitude maior, olhando para o elemento humano como um universo, e aí conceitos como motivação e liderança começam a fazer parte, na verdade, da gestão. Em 60 há um marco importante, que é o nascimento, na verdade, do Clube de Roma, e é no Clube de Roma que começam a ter as primeiras atividades focadas na sustentabilidade do mundo, né? E do sistema como um todo. Então, é de lá que sai o primeiro grande movimento, que vai repercutir no MIT e vai virar uma obra, na verdade, de referência, um estudo realmente profundo, mostrando que a nossa pegada ecológica, na verdade, está muito maior do que o nosso mundo pode propor em termos de oferta de matéria-prima, tá certo? Então, começa aqui em 1960, toda essa caminhada da sustentabilidade. Em 68, o presidente da Visa lança a teoria caórdica, que é aquela que fala que, através da pesquisa que ele fez com várias empresas, ele consegue enxergar que o caos e a ordem são importantes na gestão, então a gente precisa saber dosar isso. Em 72, uma série de estudiosos de gestão retomam a questão principal, uma das questões principais do Taylor, que era só ter um jeito certo de fazer as coisas, e aí eles quebram esse novo olhar, até porque o mundo mudou depois da Segunda Guerra Mundial. E aí eles falam o seguinte: bom, existem várias formas de fazer a mesma coisa. Agora você precisa entender a contingência, o contexto onde as coisas, onde você está inserido, você, seus negócios, seus produtos, enfim, né? Em 1982 se retomam os estudos do Schumpeter, tá certo? E aí sim, critérios como a distribuição criativa e os ciclos econômicos fazem parte do processo. A partir de 1990 a gente tem outro marco importante, que é a globalização, e aí sim, eu tenho uma série de ferramentas que a gente acaba utilizando, e começa em 1990 e a gente usa até hoje, né? E até chegar aos dias de hoje, de 2020, e a gente trabalha muito a questão da sustentabilidade. Mas esse foi um olhar de retrovisor, gente. A gente olhou para trás, né? Como é que a gente chegou aqui e a gente utiliza todos esses conhecimentos. Só que a gente tem que olhar para frente. O que vem pela frente em termos de gestão? Que mundo é esse que vem pela frente, tá certo? Então, para a gente enxergar isso melhor, eu trouxe aqui um vídeo que eu quero dividir com vocês, dada a importância do cenário que está surgindo aí no horizonte, tá bom? Vamos ao vídeo.
Tonight,
the race to become an AI superpower is on.
the politics of artificial intelligence,
There will be a Chinese tech sector, and there will be an American tech sector.
the new tech war,
The more data, the better the AI works. So in the age of AI, where data is the new oil, China is the new Saudi Arabia.
the future of work,
When I increase productivity through automation, jobs go away.
I believe about 50% of jobs will be somewhat or extremely threatened by AI in the next 15 years or so.
AI and corporate surveillance,
We thought that we were searching Google. We had no idea that Google was searching us.
and the threat to democracy.
China is on its way to building a total surveillance state.
Tonight on Frontline,
It has pervaded so many elements of everyday life. How do we make it transparent and accountable?
in the age of AI. This is the world's most complex board game. There are more possible moves in the game of Go than there are atoms in the universe. Legend has it that in 2300 BCE, Emperor Yao devised it to teach his son discipline, concentration, and balance. And over 4,000 years later, this ancient Chinese game would signal the start of a new industrial age. It was 2016 in Seoul, South Korea.
Can machines overtake human intelligence? A breakthrough moment when the world champion of the ancient board game Go takes on an AI program developed by Google.
여전히 자신감은 있는 상태고요. 아무래도 역시 아직은 인간의 직관력이나 이런 감각들을 컴퓨터인 인공지능이 따라오기에는 약간 무리가 있지 않나 이렇게 생각을 해서 제가 꼭
In countries where it's very popular, like China and Japan and South Korea, to them Go is not just a game, right? It's like how you learn strategy. It has an almost spiritual component. You know, if you talk to South Koreans, right, and Lee Sedol is the world's greatest Go player, is the national hero in South Korea, they were sure that Lee Sedol would beat AlphaGo hands down.
Google's AlphaGo was a computer program that, starting with the rules of Go and a database of historical games, had been designed to teach itself.
I was one of the commentators at the Lee Sedol games. And yes, it was watched by tens of millions of people.
Throughout Southeast Asia, this was seen as a sports spectacle with national pride at stake. But much more was in play. This was the public unveiling of a form of artificial intelligence called deep learning that mimics the neural networks of the human brain.
So what happens with machine learning and artificial intelligence, initially with AlphaGo, is that the machine is fed all kinds of Go games. And then it studies them, learns from them, and it figures out its own moves. And because it's an AI system, it's not just following instructions, it's figuring out its own instructions. It comes up with moves that humans hadn't thought of before. So it studies games that humans have played, it knows the rules, and then it comes up with creative moves.
정말 생각지도 못한.
That's a very surprising move.
I thought it was a mistake.
Game 2, Move 37.
That move 37 was a move that humans could not fathom, but yet it ended up being brilliant and woke people up to say, wow, after thousands of years of playing, we never thought about making a move like that.
Oh, he resigned. It looks like Lee Sedol has just resigned, actually.
In the end, the scientists watched their algorithms win 4 of the games. Lee Sedol took 1.
What happened with Go, first and foremost, was a huge victory for DeepMind and for AI, right? It wasn't that the computers beat the humans. It was that, one type of intelligence beat another.
Artificial intelligence had proven it could marshal a vast amount of data beyond anything any human could handle, and use it to teach itself how to predict an outcome. The commercial implications were enormous.
While AlphaGo is a toy game, but its success and its waking everyone up, I think, is going to be remembered as the pivotal moment where AI became mature and everybody jumped on the bandwagon.
This is about the consequences of that defeat. How the AI algorithms are ushering in a new age of great potential and prosperity. But an age that will also deepen inequality, challenge democracy, and divide the world into 2 AI superpowers. Tonight, 5 stories about how artificial intelligence is changing our world. China has decided to chase the AI future.
The difference between the internet mindset and the AI mindset.
A future made and embraced by a new generation.
Well, it's hard not to feel the kind of immense energy, and also the obvious fact of the demographics. They're mostly very younger people. So that this clearly is technology which is being generated by a whole new generation.
Orville Schell is one of America's foremost China scholars. He first came here 45 years ago.
When I first came here in 1975, the Chairman Mao was still alive, the Cultural Revolution was coming on, and there wasn't a single whiff of anything of what you see here. It was unimaginable. In fact, in those years, one very much thought this is the way China is, this is the way it's going to be, and the fact that it has gone through so many different changes since is quite extraordinary.
This extraordinary progress goes back to that game of Go.
I think that the government recognized that this was a sort of critical thing for the future, and we need to catch up in this, that, we cannot have a foreign company showing us up at our own game, and this is going to be something that is going to be critically important in the future. So, we called it the Sputnik moment for the Chinese government. The Chinese government kind of woke up.
As we often say in China, the beginning is the most difficult part.
In 2017, Xi Jinping announced the government's bold new plans to an audience of foreign diplomats. China would catch up with the U.S. in artificial intelligence by 2025 and lead the world by 2030.
And intensify cooperation in frontier areas such as digital economy, artificial intelligence, nanotechnology, and quantum computing.
Today, China leads the world in e-commerce. Drones delivered to rural villages. And a society that bypassed credit cards now shops in stores without cashiers, where the currency is facial recognition.
No country has ever moved that fast. And in the short 2.5 years, China's AI implementation really went from minimal amount to probably about 17 or 18 unicorns, that is billion-dollar companies in AI today. And that progress is hard to believe.
The progress was powered by a new generation of ambitious young techs pouring out of Chinese universities, competing with each other for new ideas, and financed by a new cadre of Chinese venture capitalists. This is Sinovation, created by US-educated AI scientist and businessman Kai-Fu Lee.
Well, these unicorns, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in the general AI area. And unicorn means $1 billion company, a company whose valuation or market capitalization is at $1 billion or higher. I think we put 2 unicorns to show $5 billion or higher.
Kai-Fu Lee was born in Taiwan. His parents sent him to high school in Tennessee. His PhD thesis at Carnegie Mellon was on computer speech recognition, which took him to Apple.
Well, reality is a step closer to science fiction with Apple Computer's new developed program that allows...
And at 31, an early measure of fame.
And Kai-Fu Lee, the inventor of Apple speech recognition technology.
Casper copy this to make right too. Casper paste. Casper 72-point italic outline.
He would move on to Microsoft Research in Asia and became the head of Google China. 10 years ago, he started Sinovation in Beijing and began looking for promising startups and AI talent.
So the Chinese entrepreneurial companies started as copycats, but over the last 15 years, China has developed its own form of entrepreneurship. And that entrepreneurship is described as tenacious, very fast, winner-take-all, and incredible work ethic. I would say these a few thousand Chinese top entrepreneurs, they could take on any entrepreneur anywhere in the world.
Entrepreneurs like Cao Shudong, the 33-year-old CEO of a new startup called Momenta. This is a ring road around Beijing. The car is driving itself.
You see another cutting,
Cao has no doubt about the inevitability of autonomous vehicles.
Just like AlphaGo can beat the human player in Go, I think the machine will definitely surpass the human driver in the end.
Recently, there have been cautions about how soon autonomous vehicles will be deployed. But Cao and his team are confident they're in for the long haul.
US will be the first to deploy, but China may be the first to popularize. It's 50-50 right now. US is ahead in technology. China has a larger market, and the Chinese government is helping with infrastructure efforts. For example, building a new city the size of Chicago with autonomous driving enabled, and also a new highway that has sensors built in to help autonomous vehicle be safer.
Their early investors included Mercedes-Benz.
I feel very lucky and very inspiring and very exciting that we're living in this era.
Life in China is largely conducted on smartphones. 1 billion people use WeChat, the equivalent of Facebook, Messenger, and PayPal, and much more combined into just one super app. And there are many more.
China is the best placed for AI implementation today because the vast amount of data that's available in China. China has a lot more users than any other country, 3 to 4 times more than the US. There are 50 times more mobile payments than the US. There are 10 times more food deliveries, which serve as data to learn more about user behavior than the US. 300 times more shared bicycle rides. And each shared bicycle ride has all kinds of sensors submitting data up to the cloud. We're talking about maybe 10 times more data than the US. And AI is basically run on data and fueled by data. The more data, the better the AI works. More importantly than how brilliant the researcher is working on the problem. So in the age of AI, where data is the new oil, China is the new Saudi Arabia.
And access to all that data means that the deep learning algorithm can quickly predict behavior, like the creditworthiness of someone wanting a short-term loan.
Here is our application, and the customer can choose how many money they want to borrow and how long they want to borrow, and they can input their data here, and after that, he can just borrow very quickly.
The CEO shows us how quickly you can get a loan.
It has done.
It takes an average of 8 seconds.
It has passed to banks. Wow. Yeah, our job is finished.
In the 8 seconds, the algorithm has assessed 5,000 personal features from all your data.
12,000 features. That is related with the delinquency. When maybe the banks only use few, maybe 10 features when they are doing their risk management.
Processing millions of transactions, it'll dig up features that would never be apparent to a human loan officer. Like how confidently you type your loan application. Or, surprisingly, if you keep your cell phone battery charged.
It's very interesting. The battery of the phone is related with their delinquency rate. Someone who has much more lower battery, they get much more dangerous than others.
It's probably unfathomable to an American how a country can dramatically evolve itself from a copycat laggard to all of a sudden to nearly as good as the US in technology.
Like this facial recognition startup he invested in. Megvii was started by 3 young graduates in 2011. It's now a world leader in using AI to identify people.
It's pretty fast. For example, on the mobile device, we have timed the facial recognition speed. It's actually less than 100 milliseconds. So that's very, very fast. So 0.1 second that we'll be able to recognize you, even on a mobile device.
The company claims the system is better than any human at identifying people in its database. And for those who aren't, it can describe them. Like our director, what he's wearing, and a good guess at his age, missing it by only a few months.
We are the first one to really take facial recognition to commercial quality.
That's why in Beijing today you can pay for your KFC with a smile.
You know, it's not so surprising. We've seen the Chinese companies catching up to the US in technology for a long time. And so if particular effort and attention is paid in a specific sector, it's not so surprising that they would surpass the rest of the world. And facial recognition is one of the first places we've seen that start to happen.
It's a technology prized by the government, like this program in Shenzhen to discourage jaywalking. Offenders are shamed in public, and with facial recognition, can be instantly fined. Critics warn that the government and some private companies have been building a national database from dozens of experimental social credit programs.
The government wants to integrate all these individual behaviors or corporations' records into some kind of a matrix and compute out a single number or set of number associated with an individual, a citizen, and using that to implement a incentive or punishment system.
A high social credit number can be rewarded with discounts on bus fares. A low number can lead to a travel ban. Some say it's very popular with the Chinese public that wants to punish bad behavior. Others see a future that rewards party loyalty and silences criticism.
Right now, there is no final system being implemented. And from those experiments, we already see the possibility of what this social credit system can do to individual. It's very powerful, Orwellian-like, and it's extremely troublesome in terms of civil liberty.
Every evening in Shanghai, ever-present cameras record the crowds as they surge down to the Bund, the promenade along the banks of the Huangpu River. Once, the great trading houses of Europe came here to do business with the Middle Kingdom. In the last century, they were all shut down by Mao's revolution. But now, in the age of AI, people come here to take in a spectacle that reflects China's remarkable progress and illuminates the great political paradox of capitalism taken root in the communist state.
People have called it market Leninism, authoritarian capitalism. We are watching a kind of a Petri dish in which an experiment of, extraordinary importance to the world is being carried out. Whether you can combine these things and get something that's more powerful, that's coherent, that's durable in the world, whether you can bring together a one-party state with an innovative sector, both economically and technologically innovative, and that's something we thought could not coexist.
As China reinvents itself, it has set its sights on leading the world in artificial intelligence by 2030. But that means taking on the world's most innovative AI culture. On an interstate in the U.S. Southwest, artificial intelligence is at work solving the problem that's become emblematic of the new age, replacing a human driver. This is the company's CEO, 24-year-old Alex Rodriguez.
The more things we build successfully, the less people ask questions about how old you are when you have working trucks.
And this is what he's built. Commercial goods are being driven from California to Arizona on Interstate 10. There is a driver in the cab, but he's not driving. It's a path set by a CEO with an unusual CV.
Are we ready, Henry? The aim is to score these pucks into the scoring area.
So I did competitive robotics starting when I was 11, and I took it very, very seriously. To give you a sense, I won the Robotics World Championships for the first time when I was 13. Been to Worlds 7 times between the ages of 13 and 20-ish. I eventually founded a team, did a lot of work at a very high competitive level. Things looking pretty good.
This was a prototype of sorts, from which he has built his multi-million-dollar company.
Hadn't built a robot in a while, wanted to get back to it, and felt that this was by far the most exciting piece of robotics technology that was up and coming. A lot of people told us we wouldn't be able to build it, but knew roughly the techniques that you would use. And I was pretty confident that if you put them together, you would get something that worked. Took the summer off, built in my parents' garage a golf cart that could drive itself.
That golf cart got the attention of Silicon Valley and the first of several rounds of venture capital. He formed a team and then decided the business opportunity was in self-driving trucks. He says there's also a human benefit.
If we can build a truck that's 10 times safer than a human driver, then not much else actually matters. When we talk to regulators especially, everyone agrees that the only way that we're going to get to 0 highway deaths, which is everyone's objective, is to use self-driving. And so I'm sure you've heard the statistic, more than 90% of all crashes have a human driver as the cause. And so if you want to solve traffic fatalities, which in my opinion are the single biggest tragedy that happens year after year in the United States, this is the only solution.
It's an ambitious goal, but only possible because of the recent breakthroughs in deep learning.
Artificial intelligence is one of those key pieces that has made it possible now to do driverless vehicles where it wasn't possible 10 years ago, particularly in the ability to see and understand scenes. A lot of people don't know this, but it's remarkably hard for computers until very, very recently to do even the most basic visual tasks, like seeing a picture of a person and knowing that it's a person. And we've made gigantic strides with artificial intelligence in being able to see and understanding tasks, and that's obviously fundamental to being able to understand the world around you with the sensors that you have available.
That's now possible because of the algorithms written by Yoshua Bengio and a small group of scientists.
There are many aspects of the world which we can't explain with words. And that part of our knowledge is actually probably the majority of it. So like the stuff we can communicate verbally is the tip of the iceberg. And so to get at the bottom of the iceberg, the solution was the computers have to acquire that knowledge by themselves from data, from examples, just like children learn, most not from their teachers, but from interacting with the world and playing around and trying things and seeing what works and what doesn't work.
This is an early demonstration. In 2013, DeepMind scientists set a machine learning program on the Atari video game Breakout. The computer was only told the goal, to win the game. After 100 games, it learned to use the bat at the bottom to hit the ball and break the bricks at the top. After 300, it could do that better than a human player. After 500 games, it came up with a creative way to win the game by digging a tunnel on the side and sending the ball around the top to break many bricks with one hit. That was deep learning.
That's the AI program based on learning, really, that has been so successful in the last few years and it wasn't clear 10 years ago that it would work, but it has completely changed the map and is now used in almost every sector of society.
Even the best and brightest among us, we just don't have enough compute power inside of our heads.
Amy Webb is a professor at NYU and founder of the Future Today Institute.
As AI progresses, the great promise is that these machines, alongside of us, are able to think and imagine and see things in ways that we never have before, which means that maybe we have some kind of new, weird, seemingly implausible solution to climate change. Maybe we have some radically different approach to dealing with incurable cancers. The real practical and wonderful promise is that machines help us be more creative. And using that creativity, we get to terrific solutions.
Solutions that could come unexpectedly to urgent problems.
It's going to change the face of breast cancer. Right now, 40,000 women in the U.S. alone die from breast cancer every single year.
Dr. Connie Lehman is head of the Breast Imaging Center at Massachusetts General Hospital in Boston.
We've become so complacent about it, we almost don't think it can really be changed. We somehow think we should put all of our energy into chemotherapies to save women with metastatic breast cancer, and yet, when we find it early, we cure it, and we cure it without having the ravages to the body when we diagnose it late. This shows the progression of a small spot from 1 year to the next, and then to the diagnosis of the small cancer here.
This is what happened when a woman who had been diagnosed with breast cancer started to ask questions about why it couldn't have been diagnosed earlier.
Really brings a lot of anxiety, and you're asking the questions, am I going to survive? What's going to happen to my son? And I start asking other questions.
She was used to asking questions. At MIT's Artificial Intelligence Lab, Professor Regina Barzilay uses deep learning to teach the computer to understand language as well as read text and data.
I was really surprised at the very basic question that I asked my physicians, which were really excellent physicians here at MGH. They couldn't give me answers that I was looking for.
She was convinced that if you analyze enough data, from mammograms to diagnostic notes, the computer could predict early-stage conditions.
If we fast forward from 2012 to 13 to 2014, we then see when Regina was diagnosed because of this spot on her mammogram. Is it possible with more elegant computer applications that we might have identified this spot the year before or even back here?
So those are standard prediction problems in machine learning. There is nothing special about them. And to my big surprise, none of the technologies that we are developing at MIT, even in the most simple form, doesn't penetrate the hospital.
Regina and Connie began the slow process of getting access to thousands of mammograms and records from MGH's breast imaging program.
So our first foray was just to take all of the patients we had at MGH during a period of time who had had breast surgery for a certain type of high-risk lesion. And we found that most of them didn't really need the surgery. They didn't have cancer, but about 10% did have cancer. With Regina's techniques in deep learning and machine learning, we were able to predict the women that truly needed the surgery and separate out those that really could avoid the unnecessary surgery.
What machine can do, it can take hundreds of thousands of images where the outcome is known and learn, based on how, pixels are distributed, what are the very unique patterns that correlate highly with future occurrence of the disease. So instead of using human capacity to kind of recognize pattern, formalize pattern, which is inherently limited by our cognitive capacity and how much we can see and remember, we're providing machine with a lot of data and make it learn this prediction.
So we are using technology not only to be better at assessing the breast density, but to get more to the point of what we're trying to predict. Does this woman have a cancer now? And will she develop a cancer in 5 years? And that's, again, where the artificial intelligence, machine and deep learning can really help us and our patients.
Legal, gente. Quando a gente compara, né, toda essa linha do tempo e tudo que a gente já aprendeu em gestão, né, desde a da Revolução Industrial até os dias de hoje, né, e ver que esse conhecimento está todo presente hoje nas nossas atividades e projeta esse futuro com essa maximização ampla e restrita de processos via eletrônica, a gente entende que assim, cada vez mais a gente vai ter que adquirir novas competências, né, e se preparar mesmo como gestor para esse novo futuro que vem pela frente. Então o convite é esse, a gente vai continuar na nossa caminhada nessa disciplina, aprofundando cada vez mais esses dois olhares, o olhar do retrovisor e o olhar para o futuro, ok? E aprendendo sempre novas metodologias e dinâmicas que possam nos ajudar a construir uma carreira consistente como gestor, ok? Então, agradeço a presença de vocês nesse vídeo, espero-os no próximo, tá ok? E vou soltar a nossa vinheta final. Forte abraço!